Welcome to the Media Cat Magazine podcast. I'm your host, Mike Pigger, editor at the magazine. And for today's pod, I have with me Jade Tomlin. Jade is Group Creative Director at AKQA, previously Creative Director at Tribal Worldwide London. Jade was one of Campaign Magazine's Faces to Watch in 2009, one of Campaign and Creative Equal's 30 Future Female Leaders in 2017, and one of the DOT's 100 Trailblazers for Women and Non-Binary Talent in 2020. Welcome, Jade.
Thank you. Yes. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it's nice to see you. I haven't spoken to you in ages now, quite a few years probably. It's good to catch up again. This is my version of catching up with people, this podcast.
Yeah, no, likewise. That's really nice.
So I wanted to, the theme of the magazine this month is side quests. So sort of how much of life goes according to plan, should it? How much of life happens when we're making other plans? And what gems can be found in life's side quests? Where do you stand on that kind of stuff? You know, do you love a side quest or a side hustle, or do you like to find those kind of gems, or do you like to, eyes on the main prize? What's your sort of take?
Yeah, it's a really interesting one. I think I kind of, I'm a sort of big believer in, things that you put out into the universe, like that energy comes back. And so I think it's nice to have things in your mind, maybe not like, I don't sort of plan things to scrutiny. I imagine most creative people are in the similar way, but I think there's definitely things that are kind of like in the back of your mind and you kind of thrive for. And then I think at key moments, I think it actually probably grows out of moments of frustration on something, then the side quests sneak in and you're kind of like, right, I want this type of thing to happen. And then that's when I feel myself like my energy gets pulled into maybe unusual, smaller spaces, but to me are more interesting. A bit of a combination, I think.
Do you think it's like, so is that still like doing the main quest, whatever it is, like, in life or in work, or when you say a side quest, do you mean like it's completely, I guess I mean it's a completely different thing, but sometimes a side quest can complement the main quest, I suppose. I'm speaking in like riddles here, I swear, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, sometimes, like, for example, we'll have a big account, like maybe it's off the back of a pitch when we're running at two massive kind of product campaigns or launch campaigns, and then you're sort of like, what else, what more could we be doing? And then I think that's where we maybe be a bit more proactive and pitch different kind of ideas and things to our clients. So it's very much kind of keeping the bigger thing going, but it's almost like, what else can we do to get ourselves excited and do the type of work that we want to see in the world.
I mean, I'm suddenly thinking of the guys like David Taylor at the Brand Gym, where they, talk about kind of extending and growing the core of businesses. So it's sort of a similar kind of thing, right? Like not doing something that's completely out there and off the wall. I mean, maybe, but like, if you're pitching things to clients, it's kind of like I assume a logical extension of whatever thing it is that you're supposed to be doing with them, rather than going, hey, let's just do this wacky abstract thing. Or I mean, does that occur much, the wacky abstract thing, or is that just never going to cut it?
I think sometimes, it's how strong the relationship is and how brave the client is. I think if I feel like this client can handle it and they actually might do something with it, then if myself or the teams are coming up with stuff that is, we want to do something that is, an innovation first, or we actually want to do something with NFTs, and I feel like it's not going to scare the client off or offend them. Things like scopes creep. I didn't even realize that is like an actual thing, like that clients can be offended if you give them too much. But as long as somewhere like AKQA, like a lot of clients come to the agency for that additional thinking and to be pushed out of their comfort zone. I think sometimes we do go a little bit into the unknown, I would say.
Is it kind of rare though? Like, when people go, "Oh, really push me in, out of my comfort zone." Like, I don't know, a client giving a brief or a boss or anyone. Like, do they really mean it? I don't think they really mean it that much half the time. I think their version of out the comfort zone is not what some of us like to think out the comfort zone is. Like really far out the comfort zone.
Yeah, I think so. Like a lot of the time, but yeah, now and again, you do get these sort of like brave clients that want to do something, and whether it's to make the industry a bit more interesting, make things better, or sometimes it's to get a promotion. But either way, if it's going to lead to great creative work, I think agencies and studios would be smart to kind of follow, spend more time with those types of people.
I mean, so I guess returning slightly to the side quest thing specifically, like I know I'm really hung up on it this month, but it's the theme of the month of the magazine. How do you think like many of us are particularly good at making plans? Like humans, yourself, people like. Is it better to make a loose plan and then sort of keep an eye out for side quests because your plan's a bit crap and chances are that something else is actually going to excite you along the way, but you kind of got to make some kind of plan or you're just never going to do anything? I mean, is that how humans work or is that just how I work? I don't know.
Yeah, I think you need something, right? I feel like for me, a lot of the time my plan sits like on the horizon, and that's quite exciting because it means that you've always got a sense of a direction of travel or a North Star. It's almost like, a plan as in a bit of a vision. And then I think in terms of how you get there, a lot of the time, particularly in agency life, like you kind of need to be a bit flexible and dynamic. So I think if you have it too, logically laid out, that can be quite difficult. That's just, from my own experience anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking like a few people have written stuff recently for us for the magazine and talked about more just having a goal almost, and like anything that resembles any kind of actual plan is just sort of gets in the way, creates stress and things like that. I mean, do you guys do you find that sort of throughout your career? It's like is it almost easier just to have a goal and then just sort of vaguely figure it out as you go?
Yeah, I think so. I think that breeds in like sort of the exciting things on the sides that you didn't see coming through. Like one example, massive side quest for me would have been Creative Adventures, which was a side hustle that I worked on from 2015, and it led to it was started off being kind of like a journal series, like a magazine, but I also did workshops, and a lot of people don't know, but that funded a lot of the magazine getting up and running at the beginning. But at the end of one of the workshops that I did at Soho House, this entrepreneur put up their hand and said, "Hey, will you come and do this workshop in Barcelona?" And I was just like, sure. And, there's no plan to do that. But then getting on the plane, like free trip to Barcelona, talking about the magazine, talking about the entrepreneurs that I was meeting and writing about. Then I met even more interesting modern founders, which led to more interesting editorial and things kind of just snowballed, I suppose. And I think they wouldn't have happened if I don't know, started Creative Adventures and had a very vigorous business plan. But that particular side quest, it wasn't about I didn't have any sort of like commercial targets with it. It was like a purely creative, indulgent experience. And I think sometimes when you do that, you end up having really, really lovely memories and experiences to look back on, and a really fun team. Actually, we built a fun team around it.
It just made me think of momentum, actually, like as in like I think I don't know, like it's almost like saying side quests to just kind of I hate throwing out those buzzwords, but the people that like to describe themselves as curious and restless and all that sort of stuff. But it is a bit like that, where if you're maybe doing lots of side quests, or you're kind of constantly like trying things and putting yourself out there and doing random stuff, then encounters kind of happen. So you might not necessarily, like you say, have a goal for that kind of thing. You just kind of go, well, I wanted to do this thing, and I did this thing, and then a talk happened, and then someone said come to Barcelona, so I went, and then this happened, and sort of reminds me of movies sometimes, where you're like, oh, well, the main character didn't really have a goal, but like things just kept happening to them, and they were just sort of barreling along for the ride, sort of thing.
Yeah, and I mean, I must admit, at that particular point in my career, like what I was doing, I wasn't asked to be doing anything further. They almost wanted me to continue, and therefore I had like all this extra energy, all this extra creative energy. So it was like, I needed to use it, and I didn't have a particular plan how. I just wanted to give myself the chance to have that creative expression. And I think a lot of I had a couple of panel discussions that I got invited to do around side quests, side hustles during that time, and there was a couple of CDs who were quite sort of like against like that belief, and sort of said no, it should be the work in the agency and blah 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 blah. And I think it's true, like obviously that is a massively important element, but there comes a time where not everyone is on like the most incredible briefs, not everyone is on that project that everyone wants to work on, and you might be on an account where you're kind of like, I need more, but the agency needs me on this account. And I think for those people, I think, go for it. Do what will make your soul sing. If you're a writer and you have a novel, or even, it's many copywriters actually who are great illustrators, or there's a lot of cross pollination, or motion designers who can write great short films. And I think, sometimes you need to kind of push yourself to do those things, and it usually, like I say, ends up with a great experience or fulfills you creatively, which I think is so important.
It makes me think of my partner's been reading a lot of like YA fantasy kind of novels of late, and it just puts me in mind of that kind of stuff in terms of creative people having like I don't know, like wild magic or chaos magic or something like that. Like I kind of think there's an element of chaos to any kind of creative person, and if you sort of stick them in a bit of a box, or say, oh, you're just working on these things and do nothing else, think about nothing else, that's not really how they work. Like they're supposed to be bouncing around like a pinball a little bit and going, oh, shiny thing, and running off, like that's why you employed them, isn't it? Surely.
Yeah, definitely.
I know, probably, exactly. I don't need to convince you. It's like singing from any creative person, right, is not going to go, yes, I love conformity and doing the same thing day in and day out. Like that's not really how it works, is it? It's like, I don't know. When you said about sort of the magazine and the talk, etc. When was this? Was this before pandemic times?
It was actually, it was 2015, when there was a lot of talk of there is going to be a recession, what's going to happen, and all this sort of stuff. And I just thought there's so many incredibly brave entrepreneurs going out there, launching products, interesting services. And I was like, I want to tell their stories because I think they're massively valuable.
I guess the reason I was asking was like in the last, I guess 3 years or so with the pandemic. For you, has that sort of thrown up like or maybe that you've seen, has it thrown up a lot of side quests in terms of things that you've been working on? A lot of companies now are sort of told or they have to act like startups and kind of pivot and do random things to kind of survive, like and do different stuff. I mean, have you encountered that particularly much?
If I'm honest, not so much since the pandemic, but bear in mind, like I started AKQA during the pandemic, actually. Yeah. So I kind of have met my whole team and teams of teams remotely or through Teams, I should have said. So yeah, and I think without putting titles and labels on things, but like the more senior you go, the more accountable you are to, bring in business to service like clients at very, very high level. And I think you have to stay focused. I think that's probably my biggest thing. But again, I'd say probably not without a major plan, but like a level of serious focus. So I think not so much able to push on the side quest. But having said that, each year I've put together a proactive brief deck for the department. So we'll do another one in January, where we have briefs based on existing clients and clients of the future, as well as AKQA Studio. And so any point throughout the year, I'm giving away all the secrets now, aren't I? But yeah, the team can pitch something. And if they pitch it to ACD or creative director who's on that account, then that person can take it forward, which I think, is sort of a lovely thing. So, but there is element of side quest that I'd say junior to mid, senior creatives and designers can hop on at any point.
Is sort of start of years kind of a fruitful time to be a creative person in the sort of marketing and advertising world? Because I guess the end of the year, a lot of you guys get really busy with kind of end of year using up the budget projects, last minute projects from clients, etc. And then I don't know, there must be hundreds of Christmas parties then and all that sort of stuff, and kind of going, oh god, the year's over. And then I don't know, is it a case of chilling and then January it's kind of all the ideas come again, or I don't know, how does it work like that, would you say?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of creative people hold a very high benchmark for themselves. And so I reckon a lot of them, like you say, sort of a tornado into the end of the year, mixed with finishing off projects as well as, parties and things. And then there's that moment of downtime, probably some reflection. There probably a lot of people will reflect on the year and be like, oh, what happened to that project? Or, oh, I was supposed to do that with that client, or that was great, but then what else did I do? And then I think you come back in January, you're like, right, I'm going to make some waves. This is the year. And we at AKQA, we do a lot of, there's quite a few fun mantras that I really enjoy, like things like, you only as good as your last piece, like the next pieces will be the next masterpiece for ourselves, and that sort of thing. So I think a lot of people will be fueled up in the new year.
Oh, that's good stuff. 2023, what's it going to be like? God knows.
Well, it's going to need it, right? I mean, this is the thing, everyone's feeling the pinch, but I think CMOs in particular and marketing teams hearing that their budgets are going to be cut, it's going to be across the board. So and probably slimming down of agencies, and how do you make sure that your agency is the one that isn't knocked off the roster? It's only going to come through hard work, really.
Yeah, it's kind of the age of scrapping for everything at the moment, it feels like. And also, like, I guess, like on a sort of personal level, like affecting kind of career stuff, like, you become a mum in recent years. I wonder how that's that sort of impacted your ability to plan and get excited by side quests, or do parents basically just have to make a plan and then throw it out the window 30 seconds later when a kid does something? Is that how it goes? Because I'm not a parent and I do not intend to be.
Yeah, it's a really good point. I think there's a lot of planning that happens, and some of it is required. Like we've got a toddler who's 2.5 and a 7-month-old. So the 7-month-old obviously needs things like milk on time, sleep on time. That planning we're pretty good at sticking to. Toddler's lunch doesn't really happen because most people will know it's really difficult to feed children. Change their mind all the time, or just don't want to eat this, that, the other. But in terms of like the work-life balance, it's not been too crazy. I mean, there's obviously elements where you kind of like feel you get knocked off your axis, but I think you just have to be very forgiving and patient with yourself, and realize that you're not going to be able to be 1,000 miles per hour at any given point you want. And I know, yeah, anyone who's listening that wants to become a parent or is a parent and juggling with that, I would say, like, just really honor your 5 to 7, like that period of time when the kids come home and it's bath, it's bed, it's stories, because those years are so precious. And then once they're older, they're just going to be like, they're not going to, care as much. But yeah, you just have this short window of time where you just want to be there with them and nurture them and have that, yeah, that special bond, I suppose.
Yeah, I guess that's it's kind of put into sharp focus for a lot of people with the pandemic, working from home, maybe sort of seeing their kids a lot more than they perhaps would have in the past. But it's kind of changed the dynamic of a lot of things. I know it's completely different, but I found working from home the last few years, like going for like walks in nature and stuff, and just really noticing the changing and the turning of the seasons way more than I ever used to. And I was like, oh, look at all this specific stuff with the autumn or whatever it is, or the spring. And I was like, I would notice this surely in the past, but then I was thinking I would never have been in nature this much, this regularly. It's such a simple thing, but yeah. Anyway, going. That's another one of my side quests, just banging on about nature and buying plants. That's what I've been doing. I know we've only got a few minutes left, so I just want to sort of wrap up with a few questions that I have left. But one of them I wanted to ask around kind of exciting and thought-provoking marketing that you may have seen in recent years that you thought there's no way that could have been the main thing that they were supposed to be doing. That's got to be a side quest, right? I wondered, does a lot of this go on? You see brands like capitalizing on movements or trends or something in pop culture, and as a person in the industry, are you looking at it and kind of trying to see behind the curtain and sort of say, I reckon they just sort of jumped on that or made that up? I mean, have you seen many examples of that?
I think there's a few things, and I think sometimes when rushed, it can feel disingenuous and inauthentic. But there is like a real need for the industry to get closer to culture. And so if it is kind of an attempt to actually be part of the upswell of what people are actually talking about or caring about, then maybe it's worth a punt. And I'm kind of all right with it. And it doesn't offend me too much, because I feel like it's a road to a better output for the industry, perhaps in some cases. Yeah.
I guess maybe just the whole sort of be first or be best if you're going to do it, if you're going to get involved in that sort of thing, because otherwise it's just like everyone, then you get criticized otherwise of like, oh, you're just jumping on the bandwagon and you didn't really give it any thought, kind of thing.
Yeah, but it's super tricky because, like, a lot of the innovation style things, it's things that people hope are going to be there for the long term. Like if we think about like blockchain, NFTs, these are all new systematic things that we want to exist, and brands have the power and on a good day the budget to start them being implemented. So whilst like creative team will be absolutely gunning it for a be first moment, but if they make something happen and the brand is not kind of shaken off their axis and they're kind of comfortable with it, then it's like, okay, well, we've built the system, we can do it again and again, and we can make it better and we can iterate off it. Like AKQA have done a hell of a lot of work with Nike and things like Nike Plus, like the first edition. It was fairly basic, but then it was like, how do we get athletes involved in order to help motivate people? That would be a great use. Oh, people love also listening to music. Well, how do we integrate that? And it's just like building and evolving. So yeah, I think there will be an element of awkwardness of, oh gosh, that was like, jumping on the bandwagon a bit. But I hope that some of these initiatives that we'll probably see more of next year start a bigger a better road basically for the industry.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one to watch, I suppose. Yeah, I'm very curious about blockchain because I really don't understand it. So it's taken me about a year to possibly understand NFTs. I don't know if I still don't quite get those half the time, but I just want to finish off with kind of asking you whether you have any interesting side quests on the go lately. I know you sort of mentioned things that you were doing before, sort of the magazines and the journal series, etc. Like, is that still going? Are you doing any new weird stuff? What's going on with you?
Yeah, I think it's nice when you kind of do your own thing because you can do it at your own pace, and there really are no rules. So when I took the job at AKQA, I knew it was going to be all consuming, and I had to kind of almost pause creative adventures for a little bit. But I've always said that I will be doing another issue, and it will be on nature. When? I'm not sure. I imagine when the kids are a little bit older, but that will definitely be a patch where I'd want to pick that up and do that again. There's a couple of things within the agency. There's wouldn't be able to kind of share too much, but some teams have brought some proactive ideas, and I feel as passionate about them to try and get them to see the light of day. So there's kind of little projects that I'll be keen to kind of push in 2023 as well.
Okay, so it's a sort of a watch this space, and we'll put some links in the show notes to your socials, etc., so people can keep an eye out for things that you do, and then any sort of various projects or talks you want to point us towards, we can put those in too. But I think we're more or less out of time. So I just want to say thank you so much, Jade, for coming on the Media Cat Magazine podcast.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.